Monitoring and Evaluation Frameworks. Hi guys, welcome to M&E Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. Today we're going to be looking at a very important topic, and quite frankly, I was just checking all the videos I've done since 2016, and it is quite odd that I never even did a video on this topic, on M&E frameworks. I've done a lot of videos on logical frameworks. I've done a lot of videos on key performance indicators and what is M&E and all that stuff, but I've never done this particular topic. So that is what we're going to be looking at today. So please, if you have notes, take notes. Let's get started. Okay, as usual, I have these two ebooks which I want all my friends to download. If you're here for the very first time, please download these two ebooks. I've left the link in the description below. These are totally free, and they give you a guide, a step-by-step guide on how M&E is actually done, and especially the logical framework analysis guide. So this is specifically to you, my friends. I want you guys to grow in your M&E profession. As usual, I have timestamps in this long video, and make maximum use of these timestamps because they're there to help you navigate this video without having to watch the whole video. You can just go to certain points of this video which you want to gain further insight. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? Okay, so the outline of this video tutorial is what is an M&E framework, why do we use M&E frameworks, and how do we develop M&E framework. So it's a pretty short outline but rich in content. Okay, so an M&E framework, I have to tell you, if you go on the internet, I was searching on this topic all over the internet. What I've discovered is that there is really a mixed view on what monitoring and evaluation frameworks are. Some organizations take it as the actual M&E, okay, but I like to use what the United Nations has proposed as an M&E framework, and I actually have a link to their handbook. It was one of the earliest books I read to spearhead my M&E profession. It talks about a monitoring and evaluation framework as being a table, okay, or a matrix that actually details what indicators are going to be monitored and evaluated, who is going to be collecting information related to these indicators, how is it going to be analyzed, how is it going to be reported, when is it going to be reported. So that is basically an M&E framework. And you see, the purposes of using it this way is that it assigns responsibility to personnel. And when responsibilities are assigned and clearly defined, you're going to discover that there won't be any misunderstandings anywhere, especially when it comes to the time of collecting this information, analyzing it, and reporting. Because when you have a well-structured system where people have clearly defined roles, you find that implementation becomes very well. Okay, so why do we use M&E frameworks? There are 4 reasons there. The first one is communication and planning. I would like to think of this as a tool for mainly planning. It's more of a planning tool because when the implementation comes, you're going to be referring to this table. So that table is going to help you understand the indicators. It is mainly the indicators that help you know what exactly you're supposed to be collecting, analyzing, and reporting on. So now the time comes when you have to report this information, and that is the communication part of things. So to communicate, you don't just collect information and just tell people what you've collected. It doesn't happen like that, but there's a process of reporting it, and after you report it, who does it go to, who takes the first read, who gives the comments, who finalizes the report, who endorses the report, and all those things. So I think you get the point. So the second reason is that it is used as a map for program goals. Program goals, it's actually the impact, okay? We're talking about the impact of the program. So impact is usually the sorry, the long-term change that happens as a result of activities that are being implemented. So what we're saying here, guys, is that this map is more of a blueprint. It helps you be able to connect things from activities all the way up to the goals. So when you have this clearly defined, clearly agreed by everybody involved, you find that the M&D system itself will be running. And that's what we all want. We want a successful M&D system running. It links between resources and activities, okay? And it also guides selection of indicators. So I wouldn't say that it actually guides the selection of indicators, but it just reaffirms to you that really this is what you should be collecting, analyzing, and reporting on. And it even gives you the period of time when this all should be happening. All right, so now development of an M&D framework, guys, it all begins when the logical framework has been finally approved. All right, because the logical framework is also a planning tool. This tool just tells you the link between resources all the way up to the outcomes. So it illustrates the relationships. How do these activities, how do these processes translate to what we want to see from the project? Okay, so it details all that. But monitoring and evaluation on the logical framework is completely silent. You, as an M&D professional, will be able to see that there's M&D in the log frame. But in actual sense, there isn't any M&D being done. It's just telling you a summary of the project. So when you come up with a monitoring and evaluation framework, you're simply putting M&E into the log frame. That is why it's called a monitoring and evaluation framework. So this is maybe before I go to show you how the M&D framework looks like, and I got this from the UNDP M&D handbook. But before I go there, just so that you fully understand what I'm talking about when I say logical framework, we are talking about this, okay? Something I've already talked about, but ultimately, we're talking about what you see in that picture there. All right. So do you see anything related to M&D? You can say, yes, I've seen something. Personally, I'll say these are the indicators which relates a lot to what we do. But actually, it is simply giving you information about the project. So you've got the goals, which are the long-term change, long-term results that happen as a result of activities down there. So there is a link between activities, outputs, outcomes, and goals. Because when an activity is done, it builds onto an output. When an output is achieved, it has this following outcomes and goals. So to give you a practical example, let's say I always like to use the example of the dam. Around the world we have quite a number of dams, and these dams usually act as a reservoir for water, but they can also be used for power generation. So the process of building that dam, the activities of building that dam are found here. So those activities could be laborers, getting cement, mixing the cement to form concrete, installation of the generators at the dam. So the output could be that the dam is constructed. Okay, so now that is the immediate product of these activities, the dam being constructed. But as the dam is constructed, the outcome of having a dam constructed is generation of power. Then that generation of power means improved livelihoods of people in a community, because that power means more economic empowerment for communities. So there are so many logical frameworks on the internet. I'll urge you to Google those log frames right now, make sense out of them, and I'm telling you, you have this at your fingertips. So, like I was saying, we have the monitoring and evaluation framework. I got this from the UNDP handbook, and it explains clearly what I was talking about. So, what we are saying here is that in a logical framework, what is missing are these sections. Okay, you've got the M&E data collection methods, you've got the time schedule and frequency, responsibilities, resources, and risks. Okay, so this is what is, and also the target. So these are what are usually missing from the logical framework. So now, how does this really help you as a professional implement your activities? Because, for instance, you've got this outcome, okay, which is enhanced capacity of electoral management authority to administer free and fair elections. Okay, then you've got the indicators. These are the indicators, guys. Public perception of capacity. So when you see these indicators, you see this indicator here is obviously found in the logical framework of this project, okay, or of this program or activity they're doing. So now, what this tells you, because you know that this really is the indicator I should be collecting for this, the question is, how will you be using it? So the M&E framework will tell you that you use a tool, a data collection method called surveys. All right. But the question is, who will be responsible for this survey? They are saying the National Office of Statistics. Okay, will commission surveys, external partners, UNDP, and the World Bank. Now, these are national projects, guys, but you can actually use this at a whole different level. It can actually be done in your organization, because here you can say surveys, but who is responsible? You can simply say M&D officer for the office will be responsible for conducting these surveys. So now the question is, how do you verify? The means of verification, data source and type. It says data analysis of survey will be available in a report for public. Okay, so can you see how monitoring and evaluation frameworks are brought to life? I'm sure you do. So this is how you do it, guys. I'm going to be coming up with a lot more videos concerning M&E frameworks, so that you really you really know how to implement this in your own organizations. Okay, so thank you very much. I've been your host, Coach Alexander. If you're here for the very first time, please subscribe to this channel to get all the latest updates. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye.